I'd moved to this new town. It was much nicer, cleaner, quieter town than the other one I lived before. Not the sort of town you'd expect to have. Things wrong with it. There was a very big public park right in the center. It housed a rows upon rows of swings, slides infested with snake-like tunnels that weaved around in the playground, providing a maze for children to lose themselves in their games. There was a functioning merry-go-round which seemed to be always slightly turning, inviting the children to hitch a ride on its platforms of swirls. I have to emphasized on the fact that it was quiet, peaceful town. The kind of town where kids could leave their houses on their own and take a short journey to the park. I had been given a strict instructions by my parents that I could come to home the second it started getting dark out. My life was wonderful, or so it seemed. It was Friday, and I knew that day because I remember coming home with a large grin on my face, as I knew I had the luxury of non-stop playing for the next 2 whole days. What I did, and I always did, I chucked my school bag onto my bed as I was ordered to change it to other clothing. In the matter of minutes, I was already descended into the world of fun. Nothing could stop me. The tunnels were my favorite. It was so very easy to get lost in them, which made it fun for playing hide and seek with my only two friends, Billy and Tom. They were both in my class, and we, like many 8-year-olds, loved that game as it filled us with pure adrenaline. We were going to play murder. Now, I don't expect anyone to know this game. We just made it up. The rules were very similar to hide and seek, except the one seeking found you, they have to murder you, pretend, obviously. It was nearing winter, and I remember being slightly cold as I wormed my way through the tunnels, furiously trying to find a perfect hiding spot. Billy was the seeker, Tom had hidden behind the merry-go-round, and I was alone. It must have been maybe 10 minutes, which for an 8-year-old, it felt like a year, when I decided to do what kids do when they get bored. Give up. I give up, I shouted, my voice echoing through the tunnels. I'm in the tunnels. I give up. Heard a sudden shuffling around one end of the tunnel. Now, I honestly don't know why, but I froze still. I couldn't just call out again. I just waited. Something wasn't right. Billy would always say something before coming in after someone in the tunnel. He'd always congratulate them for being the last one to be found, or for cheating by hiding in the endless mazes of tunnels. But I stood there frozen. The shuffling grew louder. I could tell it was starting to get dark outside as the tunnels slowly began to lose any light in them, slowly but surely dropping into the darkness. I began to slowly shuffle backwards. The shuffling ahead grew louder, as if someone or something was way too big for the tunnel and was trying to navigate around. Come out, it's time to go home now, said a very creepy voice echoed through the tunnels. It sounded like when a grown man talks to small children, talking slightly higher pitched. This was definitely wrong. I probably would just have some sort of voice that was outside, but it wasn't. It wasn't anywhere outside, it was inside the tunnels. Why would an adult crawl inside? As I was shuffling further and further back, the faces of an old man appeared in the darkness ahead of me. Patches of hair on his head was the defined look of someone who hadn't or showered in the last week. I couldn't see what he was wearing, but I knew his tattered old clothes. He had a sharp, scraggly-looking beard, which was peppered with dirt. The second we made eye contact, he just smiled at me, revealing his filthy, underbrushed teeth, which had blotches of brown and black coverings on them entirely. I panicked and turned around and began shuffling on all fours as fast as I could. The shuffling behind me grew louder and quicker. He was chasing me. I sped through the maze for what felt like an eternity. I only stopped when my legs refused to move anymore. I had taken so many twists and turns that even though I was completely lost. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to talk, the voice echoed through the tunnels. I could tell he was nearby. I pressed my body against the bottom of the small, narrow tunnel and listened. He continued to make soft, cooing noises, begging me to come out and present myself to him. I lay there in the tunnel for hours, no aggravation. Just after I heard him curse to himself and angrily force his way out of the tunnel, I continued to wait. Thoughts raced through my mind of me coming out of the tunnel, only to be met by that same smile that once greeted me. In the darkness of the tunnel, I could make out blue flashing lights of the outside. I heard frantic noises calling my names repeatedly. Billy? Tom? Michael? When heard my name being, my heart slowly began to calm. My parents had come. I easily shuffled out of my tunnels, guided the wet dirt and scrapings along with the walls of the tunnel. The way the man must have gone. Outside I was greeted by several police cars, lights flashing. There were groups of adults that with concerned looks on their faces. I recognized two of them, my parents. Mom? Dad? I wailed, crying as I ran towards them. They began crying and ran towards me, lifting me off of the ground and hugging me so tightly as I felt though I was slowly being crushed. Billy and Tom were taken that evening, and they were later found hidden in a nearby skip, mutilated. They had been brutally massacred. Their skulls had been caved in with large iron bars, and their bodies had deep cuts everywhere. Large pieces of glass found under their buried in their backs. What chills me to the bone is that the wet dirt I saw in the tunnels wasn't entirely dirt. It was Billy and Tom's blood. After slaughtering my two best friends and making eye contact with me in that tunnel, he just smiled. He had just won that game. And that, my little pretties, was Children's Playground, a creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? Okay, I'm gonna be saying this right now that this story was a very, very messed up, but also a very freaky creepypasta that I have seen. Now, I did see a few narrations of this story. I remember Support Marker narrated this one, as well as Creepypasta Jr., Mr. Creepypasta, and Creepspitpasta narrated this story. So I decided to go ahead and, review this story. So, Children's Playground. I like the fact that it has a lot of believability in this story. Like, it starts off normal with, kids going to a playground and they do silly stuff, and like they always do. I mean, like, kids like to do silly stuff. I'm not denying that. Kids like to do silly stuff. They like to go to the park and all. But when it comes to the protagonist, they eventually find, out that somebody actually was sitting here and, got lost and waited in the tunnels for someone, and then this man comes out and tries to, kill this protagonist. Two of his friends died in a bloody and messed up way. Oh my god. Like, I mean, if you even read the story for yourself, you'll see what I mean. I mean, the way that they were massacred in a way, I'm like, holy hell, man. Like, that's really messed up when it came to this story. I'm not denying this right now, that this story honestly was one of the pastas that I'm gonna say right now that was completely messed up. The concept, I'm not denying that now. The concept of it was messed up of its own self. So yeah, there is definitely that. I mean, the story was actually a pretty good story. I'm not gonna lie. The sentence structure was pretty good, as well as the grammar and the punctuation, all that. It was pretty good, and I love how beautifully well written that this story really was. So that's definitely a plus I can definitely say about this story, is that it's believable in a sense. Yes, it's a beautiful, well-made story. Now, maybe what I would have to say about about one of the story things that I really wish it could have been maybe a bit more interesting of the story. Like, maybe just go a little deeper to immerse readers. So then that way it gets the extreme feeling of anxiety or something, or at least something more crazy, so to speak. Like, this like it's such a interesting read of how this story really is. I mean, I'm gonna sit here and say right now that this is actually a pretty good creepypasta. It's like, also want to say right now that hide and seek game used to be used in a lot of creepypastas, but right nowadays it's just kind of cliched. So there's definitely that. I mean, this story was like written, I believe, in 2013 or something. I'm not really sure when, but it was written around that time. Like, I love how the person was a murderer, during the whole fact about, well, what's going on with this protagonist when he meets this creepy person. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I've met creepy people online before, and I've met creepy people everywhere, so yeah. I mean, I've met creepy people, at times too. I'm sure we all have. I mean, this story is definitely it was definitely something. I'm not denying this one bit. Now, I'm not really sure who the original author of this story really is, to be honest. Like, I can't really seem to find out who the original author of this story. I was trying to look for it, but I couldn't really find it. So, there's that. I mean, if I do find out who the original author of this story is, I'll definitely be sure to give this author proper credit. It's a good story though, regardless. It's a good story. I mean, yeah, it was kind of shocking near the ending of what happened to, well, the protagonist's friends, but yeah. I mean, I've seen messed up stuff. Granted, I've seen messed up stuff too, so. And I mean, you know, this is kind of one of the reasons why you have to always keep an eye on your kids. Like, keep an eye on your kids. Because, stuff like this could happen to people. And this story actually proves a explanation, and it does prove a point on what will happen if you are not careful and you actually go out of your way and actually, well, let your kids, do whatever they want and have no super supervising. So like, I mean, I think the parents in this story were kind of like bad parenting because they need to be watching their kids in case of something like this were to happen. Maybe that's just me, but that's probably me or here or there, but yeah. Just gonna sit here and say this right now that this actually was not a bad story. I'm not denying it. But I wish the shocking part, especially the ending of it, could be, written out or something. Then that way the story would have been somewhat better. Maybe that's me, but you guys might have something else in mind that, that can maybe make sense or something. At least that's me, but you guys might have your own suggestions on this pasta. Overall, pretty good story, I'm not gonna lie. The ending of it, of what happened with, the protagonist's friends, I mean, it's really messed up of how gruesome the death is on them, so that, I'm definitely saying right now, it is very messed up. But I mean, not take it for granted, I've seen messed up stuff before, so yeah, there is definitely that. Okay, I guess with that said, I'm going to sit here and say this right now. Like I'm going to say, this is simply my own personal opinion. And if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these, creepypastas. And this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 because of how beautiful, well written this story is. The concept of it seemed pretty scary and pretty good. The grammar was really good, as well as the sentence structuring, the storyline, and everything about it was, flat out amazing and definitely a pretty good pasta. So there's definitely that. But however, though, I would have to say right now that the ending of what happened and with the, of the protagonist's friends, I mean, the deaths are pretty shocking and gruesome. I'm not gonna deny that. I can honestly see, that being the case, because, I honestly could see it right now happening. But yeah, that's just, how I feel. I'm sure most of you guys probably feel the same way. But who knows? Maybe you guys might be feeling something different. Who really knows? But you know what? You guys can have your own opinions on this story. Anyways, what did you guys think about this story? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better. Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.